Another way of casting shadows is by ray tracing them. In this method, light is emitted from a source and the rays intersect the object, and then they continue on and they strike the next surface, just as they do in a shadow map. But with ray tracing, the calculation remains vector. It never turns into a bitmap. So the shadow edge can be much more precisely determined. However, it usually takes a little bit more time to ray trace the shadows. Let's take a look at it. I'll clone the rendered frame window so we can make a comparison. And I'll change the shadow casting method in this spotlight to ray traced shadows. Then I'll do a test render. Now in this simple scene, the rendering time is very similar, but in a more complex scene, the time difference can be very substantial. Notice down here it says the rendering time is 4 seconds. I think the shadow map took 3 seconds. Notice that the shadow of the leaves is coming across correctly. So this is one of the main benefits of using this method. It works with transparent and opacity mapped materials. Observe that the shadow edge is very sharp and well defined. So we're capturing all of the detail of this geometry that's being projected down onto the ground. So this is a superior method if you're concerned with creating really impressive looking shadows that are coming through like a curtain wall or something that has a lot of complexity in it. However, if you look at shadows in the real world, you'll see that they're never really crisp and hard-edged like this. So this is also a limitation. There's a ray traced shadow parameters rollout down here, and it has a ray bias control, just like the shadow map does, to move the shadow further away or closer to the object that is casting the shadow. You also have the ability to create shadows from objects that are single-sided. You can force it to have a two-sided shadow if you want. But most importantly, I can't stress this enough, there is the max quad tree depth parameter. And this is a really deep programming issue that no one but a programmer could really understand, but just call it the magic number. And this magic number can vary between 7 and 10. And there's always one magic number within that range that is going to be a lot faster in terms of rendering than the others. And the best way to figure this out is just to do a trial and error test render. Now on this scene, it renders so quickly that it doesn't really matter, but in a more complex scene, this could be the difference between a half hour of rendering time. So what I tend to do is just try different values, 7, 8, and 9, and one of them is going to give me the quickest rendering time. I'll do another render, and this time it took 3 seconds, so that was an improvement. If I try 9, let's see what we get now. Now that's back to 4. So 8 is our magic number here. With a value of 7 and a value of 9, it took longer. So we quickly converged on the solution here. So this is the type of thing that you always need to do when you're dealing with ray traced shadows, is tune the max quad tree depth parameter.